Today I'm going to be making some boutonnieres, and I'm going to show you two different ways. One is wired boutonnieres, and the other is just kind of more loose, just taped boutonnieres. When I first started in this industry, everything was wired and taped, but nowadays it seems like people just kind of just throw some floral tape on there and some ribbon and kind of call it good. And there's benefits and pitfalls to both, so we're gonna go through all of that. So let's see, I've got my clippers as usual, and then this is called floral tape, and essentially it doesn't feel sticky, but when you stretch it out, this wax kind of emerges, and then the wax sticks to itself like that. And so this is what you use to kind of tie boutonnieres. It's a little bit more delicate than the waterproof tape that we've been using for bouquets and stuff like that, and to tape down our centerpieces. You'll also need, if you're gonna wire things, you'll need wire. And actually this, I would normally actually use like a straight wire that comes like, you know, as the name suggests, really straight, as opposed to this paddle wire, just because it's got all these kinks in it as you unravel it, and that's a little bit more difficult to work with. But here we are. Wire cutters, nice ribbon, scissors. First I'll do how I learned, which I've been in the industry for 10 years, and it seems like actually a lot has changed. Like Instagram has been invented between now and then. So things are pretty different, but also, you know, some things never change. Like if you kind of look back at Constance Spry's work, we're kind of doing her kind of style all over again, and she was in the 30s, I believe. So if you wanted to learn how to wire stuff, at first just practice getting a hang of this floral tape, because it's a little bit tricky. You kind of want to have the right amount of tension. So just to practice, I would just pinch off some on the top of this wire, and I'm just twisting with this hand and holding it tight with the other hand, and just guiding it with the other hand. It's just twisting, and it goes all the way down. And you want to just get this to just look as clean as possible. And wiring and taping is like pretty old school floristry, to be honest. Different stems kind of like to be wired differently, just to complicate things. And you can kind of get a feel for it as you start doing it more. For example, if I wanted to wire this ranunculus, first of all, I would cut it like as short as I think I need it, which is pretty short for boutonnieres. This is where I really wish I had straight wire, but then essentially what you'll do is the inside of the stem is like a tube, and you just push the wire all the way up to the top of the stem and through. And you can actually do this with bouquets and centerpieces and stuff like that if you really want your stem to be a certain way. I kind of don't usually go there because it feels a little bit fussy, but the head just needs to sit right in a certain spot, and it's kind of not doing that for you. That's one way to deal with it. So yeah, then you have a wired ranunculus. And then to kind of secure that, you just tape it. And that kind of also protects the stem from breaking a little bit. Versus like if you were going to do more of a flat petaled piece, kind of like this, what I would actually do normally is make a little like bobby pin kind of out of your wire. And this is also where straight wire would be really nice. And you can actually go in from above. And this works better for anything that has like a flat face, or kind of has a more delicate stem. But essentially I'm just feeding that bobby pin in, and I just want the wire to pop through to the other side as close to the stem as possible. And it's going to make a kind of a little bit of a line in there, but then That keeps it super secure. And you know, I'd probably take off these greens, and then you tape those wires to the stem so it's all one solid piece, like that. And so one of the benefits to using wire is you can then bend it like any shape you want, which kind of comes up when as you start to like cluster little things together. Like if I want this ranunculus to sit really nicely just below there, it's a lot easier if it kind of just, if I bend it and it just sits right down in there like that. If that makes sense. If you've got like a super skinny stem like this little, I think it's like a little tiny allium, you just tape it straight to the wire. I just don't think it's big enough to really even try to pierce. And you can wrap with your tape like really close up to the bottom of the heads, and that helps them from breaking off. This guy's a little bit thicker, but I think a little too delicate to be poking through the top. It doesn't really have a tube for a stem, so another thing you can do is kind of pre-tape. If you find your tape isn't sticking to itself, you may not be pulling tight enough. It's kind of walking this line between smashing the stem with how tight you're pulling and, you know, not pulling tightly enough that the tape's actually stretching so that wax is getting exposed. And that takes a little bit of just practice. And by pre-taping them like this, you're also kind of protecting the stem from getting just kind of sliced open. The wire can really just really damage stems that are delicate. Okay, then normally I don't necessarily wire my greens because they kind of hold themselves in place. Anything super sturdy you don't necessarily have to wire unless you want that dexterity in order to bend their heads. So now I'm gonna actually put one together. I kind of like to have one main flower that's, you know, maybe a little bit bigger. So then I'm gonna go in and wire each of these little elements. Then once all your stems are wired, you can begin to put them together. And you're kind of just like making a little posy. Kind of just placing the stems tight enough together that they kind of support one another, but don't necessarily like block the view of each one. It's not too bulky. And I was kind of trained to throw some tape on it at pretty much every step so that they're really locked in place, but kind of as you saw with our bouquets, kind of prevents you from switching it up as you go as easily, which means just, you know, you have to take the tape off again if you want to change something. Okay, maybe a little something at the base there. And then place your leaf so it's on the back. And it is kind of important, even if you don't have a leaf that really is cute that you want to show off, like this hukra, having a leaf that's at least tucked down underneath at the bottom so that it kind of protects the really delicate petals from just like rubbing up against the suit throughout the day, and so they last a little longer with that a little bit of protection. Alright, and then the rule of thumb is about 3 finger widths. Okay, so there she is, and then I'll add ribbon to that. And normally I would make these probably either the day before or morning of. So now I'm going to do one without wiring, which, as you'll see, just kind of is a little bit easier. So I'm just kind of clustering things how I want them and just taping them on without having wired them. But I'll have a little bit less control over what directions their heads face and stuff like that. And I kind of like to think about, you know, petals kind of going out in the lapel. And then add my hukra. And again, I'll cut it about 3 finger lengths. And then with these, I actually like to stick them in water so their feet are a little wet, whereas you can't really do that with the wire. And again, I would make these either the day before or morning of. Ribboning, if you were doing this style, I kind of just like tying it on. I would probably first just dry these stems off so you're not getting your ribbon soggy. So I leave at least like 3 inches, and then I go down the stem, probably like only maybe 3 ribbon widths, and then back up. And that last one should really be along the top there. And then you kind of tie that off onto that tail you left before. Give it a cut with plenty of room to tie. And you can either do a bow here, or a lot of times we'll just do like a square knot. That's nice and tidy. And then again, trimming it so it's a little bit shorter than the stems. Yeah, and there you have it. So 2 different ways to kind of do boutonnieres. Cute little boot.